I was completely alone that night. At least, that's what I thought. Because while I was locking my front door, someone was already inside my house. The uninvited guest. For a significant portion of my life, I've been someone who genuinely prefers being alone. That's not a complaint about my family or past relationships. It's just that I've always operated best in my own space. Whenever I used to date, I'd usually end the relationship before things got too serious. It wasn't a pity party. It was exactly how I liked it. Being a homebody allowed me to fully focus on my passions. I'm a massive dork, and I love that about myself. I love my comic books, my collectibles, and more than anything, just relaxing at home. However, the location of my house at the time made relaxing a bit difficult. I lived right next door to a local neighborhood bar. Thankfully, it wasn't directly adjacent. There was a thick line of trees that wrapped around the property line to give me some privacy. But if I stood at a specific angle in my driveway, I could clearly see the side deck of the bar, which happened to be the designated outdoor smoking area. Most of the time, it was manageable. It only became unbearable on the weekends or when the local sports teams were playing, which felt like every other day. At the time, I was working in retail, meaning I had to work most weekends. So while they were partying hard and being incredibly loud next door, I was desperately trying to get some sleep. Out of all those frustrating nights, one specific Saturday stands out, and it's something that will probably haunt me for the rest of my days. My best friend, Isla, was coming over for dinner. She's practically like a sister to me. We've been inseparable since elementary school. Around that time, Isla had made it her personal mission to set me up with someone. This was right before dating apps became the norm, which was a shame because those apps probably would have helped me break the ice. I am an incredibly awkward person around strangers. The mere thought of walking up to a random woman and asking her out felt more terrifying than the most intense horror movie you could think of. Because being a homebody was the main part of my identity, meeting people was tough. That's why Isla was trying to be the ultimate wingman, though it wasn't going well. I'd had a few disastrous blind dates, but nothing clicked. On this particular night, Isla came over to hang out for a few hours until her girlfriend finished her late-night work shift. We had a great time, and she spent most of it giving me her classic dating tips to use on my next attempt. Around 10 p.m., her girlfriend called to say she was leaving work. I walked Isla out to her car, said my goodbyes, and watched her pull out of the driveway. As I turned to head back inside, a wave of loud shouting erupted from the bar's side deck. I glanced over through the trees and saw a group of about 7 or 8 women. They were clearly intoxicated and having a loud, boisterous conversation. I could hear every single word they were yelling. I just shook my head, but right as I was about to step through my front door, I noticed something strange. One of the women in the group was staring directly in my direction. I actually looked around my dark yard to see if she could be looking at someone else, but it was clear her eyes were locked onto me. I didn't react. Slowly, the rest of the group began to filter back inside the bar, but this particular woman stayed behind. It was almost as if she wasn't actually part of their group, even though she had been standing right next to them. Suddenly, she raised her hand and waved. There was literally no one else around, so she had to be waving at me. I didn't wave back at first, which seemed to prompt her to wave even more aggressively. Hesitantly, I raised my hand back. Her reaction was immediate. She blew a dramatic kiss right toward me. I just offered an awkward smile and quickly went inside, assuming she was just a patron who had consumed one too many drinks. Dismissing the weird interaction, I sat down and loaded up a video game since I actually had the weekend off for once. To me, there was no better way to spend a quiet evening. By the time 1:30 a.m. rolled around, I was deeply focused on my game when a sudden sound made me pause. It was a very gentle, faint knock on my front door. I paused the game, listening intently. A second later, the soft knock came again. Surprisingly, I wasn't that startled. Due to my close proximity to the bar, I'd had drunk patrons wander onto my porch before. Some people in this town really like to party, so I was somewhat desensitized to weird late-night disruptions. Just to be safe, I got up and peeked out the small window beside the door. The porch was empty. I figured it was just some idiot from the bar playing a ding-dong ditch prank. Even so, my heart was beating a bit faster. Hearing a knock at that hour is always a little jarring. Instead of jumping right back into my game, I sat on the living room couch with my laptop, trying to wind down. About 15 minutes passed, and curiosity got the better of me. I stood up to check out the front window one last time just to ensure nobody was lingering in my yard. When I looked out, I didn't see any movement, but my eyes caught something else. The interior dome light of my car was glaring brightly in the dark driveway. As I focused a little harder, I realized my driver's side door was sitting slightly ajar. At this point, I wasn't scared. I was furious. This wouldn't be the first time a drunk person from next door had tried to rummage through my car to find cash. The joke was on them because I never kept anything of value in there. But the last time this happened, the dome lights stayed on all night and completely drained my battery. I didn't want to deal with a dead car the next morning. I unlocked the front door, stepped out into the cool night air, and marched over to my car. I carefully checked the back seat first to ensure no one was hiding back there. Once I verified the car was completely empty, I shut the door firmly, locked it with my key fob, and headed back inside. The moment I stepped into my house and locked the deadbolt, a sudden scent hit my nose. It was a very strong, distinct smell of lavender perfume. My mind instantly jumped to Isla, but she was never the type to wear perfume, and there was no way a scent would linger in the air for hours after she left. I tried to rationalize it, thinking that whoever had knocked on my door earlier must have been wearing an absurd amount of it, and the scent had somehow drifted inside when I opened the door. I shut down my computer, turned off the gaming console, and decided it was finally time for bed. I still felt the lingering sense of mild anxiety, but I wasn't truly frightened. I crawled under the covers, put a movie on my TV to distract myself, and tried to drift off to sleep. I don't know exactly how much time passed, but a sound suddenly made me snap wide awake. I instantly muted the movie to clear the audio. Through the silence of the house, I could hear what sounded like rapid, delicate footsteps running around the perimeter of the hallway just outside my bedroom. It sounded like bare feet moving incredibly fast. I quietly slipped out of bed and crept closer to the bedroom door to listen. That's when the most terrifying sound broke the quiet, a soft, feminine giggle. Hearing that chilling, playful laughter inside my dark house stripped away all my logic. I completely shut my bedroom door, which had been cracked open, locked it, and immediately called 911. I told the dispatcher that an intruder had broken into my home, likely a volatile patron from the bar next door. While waiting for the police, every single minute felt like an eternity. Eventually, the running and the giggling stopped, leaving the house dead silent. Desperate for some form of defense, I quietly crept over to my closet, grabbed one of my dad's old golf clubs, and unlocked my bedroom door. I began to slowly, methodically creep through the dark hallway. When I reached the threshold of the kitchen, my entire body completely froze. Standing right there in the middle of my kitchen was a petite, blonde woman. She was facing away from me, staring blankly out the window into the dark yard. She was wearing an old, filthy, tattered pink dress. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This was the exact same woman from the bar who had waved at me hours earlier. Before I could even find my voice or make a move, she spoke. Without even turning around to face me, she whispered into the dark room. "Hey, buddy. I know you're there." Then she snapped her head around with terrifying speed, locking her eyes directly onto mine. A split second later, she sprinted straight at me. I let out a yell, turned on my heel, and sprinted into the nearby bathroom. I slammed the door shut and threw the lock just as her weight crashed against the wood. She began violently pounding on the door, her voice shifting into a desperate, erratic plea, begging me to just open up and let her in. Thankfully, it wasn't long after that the flashing blue lights illuminated the windows. The police had arrived. I heard them call out as they entered the house, demanding to know where I was. I unlocked the bathroom door and stepped out, greeted by the sight of the officers. But when I looked down at the floor right outside the bathroom door, my stomach turned. Lying on the rug was one of my own heavy steak knives, taken straight from the kitchen counter. As we searched the rest of the house, we discovered that my back door was swinging wide open. She must have bolted out into the woods the second she heard the police sirens approaching. The very next day, I went over to the bar with the police to speak with the manager. When I described her, the owner recognized her instantly. He told us she had been acting incredibly erratic, bothering the guests, and looking visibly unkempt. He had eventually thrown her out, and when she continued to linger near the tree line, he threatened to call the police, which made her vanish into the dark. I never saw her again after that night, thank God. I spent a long time trying to figure out exactly how she managed to get inside a locked house. The only window of time that made sense was when I had walked out to check my car door. She must have been crouching in the shadows right next to my porch, waiting for me to step away, and slipped inside the open front door the moment my back was turned. I will never forget the chilling sound of that giggle, and I just hope she either got the help she desperately needed or is somewhere far away from me.
If these stories gave you chills, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more terrifying true encounters. Drop a comment below telling me which story scared you the most, and remember, keep your doors locked tonight. See you in the dark.